things will literally make the difference and get people victory royales. But with that being said, you know what time it is. Game number 2 is on deck, so let's send it back over to Sundown and Sancho West to lead us in on the battle bus.
Zeke, and the battle bus is looking good, fully fueled up. Our competitors are now gliding into the respective spots. This is game 2 out of the 12, day 1 of heat 1. You're seeing the big names colliding, and I gotta say, Sundown, and Nas, Flick, and Thomas HT, they're repping that ghost outfits, the Ghostbusters. They basically said, we ain't afraid of this lobby. We ain't afraid of this lobby. We're here to play, and we're here to let the world know that we're going to go into grands in a dominant fashion. I know it's just game 1, but I always believe game 1 is the biggest statement piece that you can make.
Yeah, and I think it really sets you up to just kind of now play for that top 8. Again, no difference whether you're 1st or 8th. It all gets you a ticket to that dance, to that grand final, which is what it's all about. But now you don't feel like you're playing catch up, which is always a really beneficial feeling. Like, yes, anybody's able to have one of those pop-off games at any point in time, really rack off a number of solid points, but to just get it done right away and right off of the start ends up making a huge difference. As you can see, Luca picking up an Elim right off of the bat. Tenzin also going to find one. We're over here in the Dirty Docks area, which is an area that's just so particularly strong. The available amount of mats, you have an upgrade bench that's right there on the side, you have fishing spots, plenty of chests as well. I really think it's kind of underrated, especially if you're able to get it uncontested.
Just to show you how strong, folks, Thomas's HD trio is, in 14 games, they had 10-plus points. And that's just second to 4ZR's trio, who went back-to-back. I mean, Thomas HD, just to see his technical prowess, had 7 sniper elims during qualifiers. That's the most of any player. So you're seeing a very dangerous trio, and you mentioned the clutch factor between Thomas and Anas doing it right then and there. And you not to count on Flick. I mean, Flick got them there to that one point. Flick is going to be a very important trio. Yeah, you could kind of pop off at the end game considering that there's so much chaos, but kind of riding together, bad boy style to the end as a trio is still going to be very important. But I got to say, Sundown, I mean, what is going on? I mean, you already said it, not to worry, but I'm still worried about what's going down with Benji at Doom's Domain.
There's no possible way they'll end up with uncontested Dooms in having as many poor games like that. It was probably just a Storm Surge issue based off, if I could tell, on their loadout. It seems like they were forced to just kind of outlast the first one. Now we're going to swing on over to one of those other power POIs, the mythic POIs. The reason we talk about them being so strong are they're the only 2 areas on the map that have those vaults super available to them, able to go through, pick up just an excess amount of not only shockwaves, shields, and that, but you are also able to get those power weapons right away, whether it's the epic shotguns or those epic ARs that really enable early combat.
Yeah, and Mongrel's teammates has played very well, but the story right here is Mongrel. Mongrel is the driving force behind everything that they do. He's the elimination leader. He's in every single game that they won, he's up there. When Mongrel, though, when he goes down, they only average 29th place. So that's going to be that concern that we saw him in previous weeks. You know, Mongrel has to stay up. Mongrel is the closer for the squad. Yes, Tayson and Mitro are all decorated in their own way. You know, Tayson being a solo champion. But we just seen just having someone like the young Lord Mongrel be on his feet and in-ground and in-game beaming everybody down. That is why they call him the Big Grawl in the Twitterverse.
And we even saw last game, if you're able to check out, he posted a number of his clips as well. He had a huge pickup on the mid ground. It's something we saw in the elimination feed there, but he's someone who is able to make those plays and make what feel like almost hopeless situations turn in your favor. However, when you're taking fights like that all the time, it can be a little bit more difficult, and now you can see a little bit of a shift in gameplay. They're actually immediately looting Dooms, getting the max shields, and then sprinting out and trying to find another team. To me, that 100% signals that, hey, they ran into Storm Surge problem last game. How do we fix it? Well, let's go find one of those 2 teams who land at one of these outsides. Generally, if there is a Quinjet on that northern side, you can see that little white mark on the map there, the little white plane. That's the Stark Quinjets that have the Stark Industry loadouts that are over there. Players will go over, make sure they're hitting up the henchman chest, getting the excess weapons and shields from there. But Dooms is always going to give you better loot than that, and they're up on the high ground and pressuring right away.
And let's see if this engagement, this risk, this dip into the cookie jar so early will pay them off. I'm taking a look at HP. It's all looking the same right now. A lot of exhausted materials are happening in this engagement. Yes, the great thing about Doom's Domain as well, they could dip back into that vault. They could double dip into that, make sure they get all the resources that they need to heal back up.
And right now you can see Benji taking a shot right there immediately. Going to make sure he applies that shield. He doesn't want to get knocked, doesn't want to end up in a situation where even one of those rare uncommon pumps could hit him with a full headshot and knock him down there. But you can see they're just trying to press forward, but we talked about these early fights. If you're not able to kind of wear somebody through right away and they make it hard enough, it can be difficult. However, with the first zone pulling just a little bit to the southeast and Doom still being in play, probably not too worried about it. Savage again trying to trade out shots, but not catching the better side of that, taking just chunk after chunk. 99 chip through almost the entirety of his shield. It's gonna pop a pair of minis and be forced to back up, but they're being held pretty well right now.
I mean, this is what you're seeing. The level of quality of competitors is higher than qualifiers. You're in heats now. These people earn the right to play as well. And that is why you're going to see this tug of war that's happening, this stalemate, this long-lasting battle. And before you know it, someone's going to keep tabs. You're going to take a while. They could go into those VODs and those replay clients and realize, like, yeah, this is a battle that we could kind of third party on.
There's another trio coming in. There was another trio coming in right away, and you see as soon as that happens, hit the rift, gone. They're trying to spray down shots, but they have to do it quick enough because if they don't hit the rift, Nikeva and Toby are going to be able to come over. Kaxi, Nikeva, Toby from the northern side are going to be able to close that fight. That rift closes it off. Luckily enough for them, the zone is close because otherwise Storm would have been pressuring them by now, but they're going to be forced to rotate back into Dooms. However, if that other team is smart, they're taking the rift and diving down into that vault right away, stealing what they can, and then rotating back on out. Hopefully, Benji, Savage, and Lecce were able to get enough tags to avoid that initial storm surge. Again, that was the entire play, so we're going to hop back on board here with the French trio of Blaster, Alpha, and Nikov.
This trio is actually doing really well. One of the teams that we highlighted on the analyst desk coming into this matchup, they're in 5th place. Finished 6th place in game 1 with 6 elims. Very strong trio. Nikov, you know, what I like about Nikov is that he was on the tail end of two highlight plays. One from Mongrel coming down, and then that sniper shot from a trade hard trio. And, you know, to have that mental, be able to still output to be a part of that trio, that's going to be strong. I mean, especially, you know, when you're on that social media highlight, you know, on the other end of that. And for Nikov to be able to kind of shake that off and still perform at a high level to get into the heats. And like I said, this is probably the nightmare before Grand's heats. It's so stacked with so many crazy trios that Blaster and Alpha and Nikov, they could totally do it. And one stat that I got to bring up here, Sundown, is that out of the 33 trios, only 8 place in the top 8. So only 8 of those trios have that experience, and it's not going to be easy like for Mongrels and Benjis and Thomas because they haven't made it into that top 8 in the qualifiers. And Blaster and Nikov, I believe they're one of the trios that has.
Yeah, and pushing into that top 25% when you're playing against the other top competition in Europe is so incredibly difficult. It's not just placements or not just eliminations that get you there. You have to do a combination of both, or you have to have a couple of monstrous games, and to even have the capability of doing that can be so difficult. But we've seen time and time again that people have defied the odds and been able to come up with kind of those, like, put a stamp on it moments where it's like, hey, this is my game. And right now, Versa, J-Kai, Serenity Swaps trying to push through here, working their way through an old tunnel, but trying not to get caught in one of those traps. As we've seen time and time again, players like to lurk in these.
Absolutely. We saw a crazy moment where Trainhard's trio, I believe, there was, I think it was Analyx, actually, Janice, were kind of pushing through a tunnel that wasn't theirs, and at the end of that tunnel was Mongrel waiting for them. And this is that double dip opportunity that you were seeing. Once Mongrel's trio left this vault, it's all up for grabs. And a lot of trios kind of add this to the rotation. They add this to their loot path because you can, you know, get that upgraded pump. You could go ahead and find a bandage cannon. There's various items that you could still find because it's just so much in that a trio cannot essentially take everything. It kind of reminds me of the old school Oregon trail. You can't really take all the items. You're going to have to leave some behind because you get encumbered.
Now we're going to hop on board here to another fight. We saw Luca pick up an elim early. They're going to try and get a second here. Not sure if this is a different trio. That's Serenity Acosta going down there to Martine. Some Serenity on Serenity Crime. No peace will be found for either of them. But our Luca trying to find the shot here. Not quite necessarily able to find the player yet. The player doing a relatively efficient tarp to get out. To me, that signals he's low on mats, especially since he's using wood. But the huge burst shot, that's headshot, right back onto Luca. So a little bit of room going. He's saying, hey, I know I have to go, and I have to go right now. Storm is at his back. Doesn't seem like he has any additional heals. Will use the harpoon into the first one. Luca just holding on the other side of the ramp. Teammate will flip it over, and Dezinho will go day-bye as they'll pick up 3 there.
I mean, every time I'm catching somebody into this area of the map, they're always fighting in the storm, and they're going to have to condition that over the 12-game stretch. This is game 2, and you're seeing names in the Elam feed, like I said, crossing swords. And so those are going to happen. You could kind of keep tabs at home and see who's winning those engagements, but for some reason, that Fortilla area, there were people who are kind of landing on Sundown, just end up being very inconsistent. I haven't seen, like, even Xset. You know, I know Xset does really well on the low ground, but it just takes a lot to get there. And now we're seeing some battles happening in the Stark Industry main building. Knight with some nice edits, phases through that ramp, gets a nice hit for a moment here, and now it's some nice box phasing right on in. Big time Elam right there for that squad, getting that first point of this engagement. But Knight is all alone. He's going to be that Knight standing all by himself. Can he hold on, or will this Knight get that sundown? You got to be careful here, because these are the scary moments in the trio when you have to clutch by yourself. Ooh, 150 tag. Yes, but oh no, you get tagged yourself. Oh my goodness, this is not looking good for Leon, Dasik, and Knight.
You can see Knight just very recently signed to Centric. Literally, I think that was this morning or yesterday, going through Dion Waiters, getting involved again. But Leon going down there as Sammy and Dines being another benefactor of kind of a trio being pushed into them. Day was able to trade one out. So right now, this is just a 1v2. He wants to work over towards Leon to see if he can potentially save a little bit of the resources and keep him up. But he knows there's a trio not only ahead of him, he should be able to hear that trio breaking the builds behind him. So it's going to be a tough opportunity, especially after a first good game where they're able to get 18 points. To kind of get caught on the edge of zone rotation here is really difficult. However, we've already seen Knight clutch up once. Can he make it happen again? As that's a Nos, Thomas, and Flick over on the side. We're now closing in on that fight again. That was the game 1 38-point winner, and instead Centric uses one of his 4 shockwaves to just disengage up and through the side. And honestly, I think he's probably just going to sprint straight to zone.
That was literally a battle of the top 10 Sundown. You had number 1 spot going up against 6 and 9. So that's kind of crazy how all of that was unfolding. It just shows you how powerful the POIs are even worth revisiting after the initial drop, considering that valuable loot there, that valuable vault is available up for grabs. And now we're seeing everybody else trying to navigate up here. Good thing at Risky Reels that you're seeing this 200 and Wakey or W Key and Styler. They don't have to really work the elevation here. It's the low point, but that means Sundown, there's going to be a lot of traffic going into that spot here, as you're already seeing on your mini map on your bottom right. You're seeing so many arrows here holding up that low ground, and this is an opportunity going for that. What is this? This Clay special all day today? Everyone using the power of the harpoon, and we're seeing its different uses available to break builds and get inside boxes efficiently, and that is a great push right there for this trio.
And it also isolates and disorients people. If you get hit by one of those harpoons in a box situation, it's really difficult to then have a follow-up shot, and then all of a sudden you're inside of another trio. They're all directly on top of you, and you're not quite able to get picked up there. So good utilization of the harpoon there. Going to start trying to work their way through those catacombs. You can see everyone working box to box right now. This is the fight we were kind of talking about early on. That's Sanji Fishy actually getting caught out there. Michael also being taken out, and instead Emo is going to be forced off to the side. Does have shockwaves if he wants to disengage. Kinwin also getting knocked, but some good return shots coming through front. Ebo Toby getting caught kind of gargling there. Statue up on the side. Caxi now with the storm at his back as well. This is going to be mostly a one-on-one. You can see Emo trying to work his way over to the loot, pick up the builds, get 7 shockwaves for his trouble, and he's going to say, thank you, I'm going to take those, set up the bouncer shockwave, and he's going to space straight to the zone, right into upstate New York.
And here we go. We're going to get a first taste of upstate New York. This is going to be a very interesting ending. If you've never had an end game here, if you've never seen Fortnite competitive, the value spots are going to be on the mountain. There's a lot of different elevations here. There is some water, a lake, and a river that go through it. And that is where things get scary. We have seen the river, the end game end up on the lake. And that is where a lot of our competitors are going to use their builds, because you have to cover the floor as well. So we have to assume Mongrel's trio, which already bailed out of that Stark Industries so early, as we saw, they weren't in sight here earlier in the game. I think most likely they're kind of perched up really high, because every time a zone ends up here, Sundown, they always end up at height at like early on, and they never let it go.
And you can see, luckily for the competitors, it's pulling more centrally, so less of kind of those really, really sharp outer edges that are almost polar peak X, the ones that end up coming in. They give you the acute angle up from the ground, which means you're not able to directly connect against them. The only verticality they're going to have to compete with is the innate mountain on the inside, which, while still pretty difficult, it's not as bad as it could be. It's not going to force as many uses of rotation, so you're going to see some more opportunity to use that either a little bit earlier or in rotations on the side zone. But you can see Ziku, Weepu, and Kaizen finding some great shots there. Excuse me, a little bit of a miscommunication there as the horizontal shockwave comes out from Kaizen. He rockets himself forward, but Ziku back, going to force him to use a crash pad that could have been used to get in the box. They're going to find the cleanup there onto Exponential. Going to find a second one there onto Mexi as well. Can they continue pushing forward and find the third? They haven't isolated 1v3. They're right on the edge of zone, and they should be able to clean this one up, as the player is now going to just try desperately disengage.
Here we go. We're getting closer and closer to the end game. This was zone 4. Zone 5 is at half in and half out. 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to be the rotating. Of course, 9 will be the ultimate closing zone, where it goes all the way down and the entire island's engulfed. And we saw how important it is to navigate that. You literally have seconds. Our game 1 winner, Anas, went all by himself up to the very end. Thomas HC was there. The duo got to the end, but Anas was kind of dancing in and out, dealing with having to use that siphon HP, dipping in the storm, holding on to the very last second. Like, that is the kind of dance that you're going to have to master if you want to step up your game in the Fortnite competitive. Every second matters, every HP, med kit. There's so many different ways to survive that dangerous zone 9. And speaking of survival, Benji, Lechi, and Savage already with the rough start here. We're going to take a look at their kit. Got some elims. They made some changes. Let's just see if those adjustments are going to pay off for them here in game 2.
And they're well above Storm Surge this time as well. You can see finding another knock right there. That's Laurent. A little bit of a miss at it, but they're going to try and close the box. And a little bit. Sometimes you're a little over-eager, and right away they're going to use that pick-up throw feature, disengage with Savage, saying, nuh-uh, the knock right there is not worth losing our superstar. Going to try and use whatever utility they can to make sure they get them up. They're going to trade the revives back on the other side, so Laurent's going to be picked up. The utility is going to be used. A little bit of Storm Surge damage, again, being traded back and forth. A Storm Surge is still on and impacting one player, as Vidil is actually going to get a knock onto Mitro there. So Mitro's trio in a little bit of trouble right now.
Here, the trouble is ensuing. Shots are going. Everybody's trying to get that free elim, kind of condition the lobby to make these rotations. As you see, Versu picking up an elim, and that's going to give him the green light to make that rotation. It's not necessary. Yes, you're going to get a point on the leaderboard, which is going to be very valuable, but you're going to enable you to stand a little bit longer to get a cleaner rotation right then and through. And Versu was able to get that and perch on top of that one knock that they had, and now they're going to have the opportunity here. They are in the half in and half out, zone 5, and this is the dangerous part of it all. In trios, you could separate so easily, and at the same time, you could use up so much of mobility if you make a bad. We already saw someone make a bad shockwave play early on, because this is where the nerves start maybe getting to the butterflies, as you see, in just a very erratic bounce right there. And now they're going to spend so much materials as Versu is doing all that he can to get back up to his teammate, who is higher up there. But look at all the builds that he's expending here, Sundown.
Yeah, that I don't know if I agree with it. It's going to end up working out for them, as they're going to pick up Tayson, and he's going to get a massive refresher on mats. But if they weren't able to end up picking up that would have not been as worth. The one thing I would note is it got them off of that clustered side of the zone, since everyone was pretty much rotating from the eastern side. If they were on that level and just sitting in brick, it would have been really difficult. However, you could see Mongol and Micho directly under right now. They did have Tayson get taken down just before that, which enabled the team to take height. You have Anas, Thomas HD, and Flick just below them, and you can see the rest of the zone, kind of how they're panning out, who has power positioning. Our high ground trio from last game, Zynie, Flixie, trying to get a little bit of a position there. You have the Otterworld duo of Jachu and Paco just underneath with Advise. So a lot of trios who we've seen be able to execute plenty of late game moves to pressure off of high ground. And you can see, boom, right as I called it, Shockwave going up towards that power position, but instead, a little bit of a miss execution from Zestin and Co. as another one will come out and everyone's moving over because that zone is pulling south and east.
The sound of the alarm, and you're seeing here in game 2 at in-game, it is the who's who of the zoo, still vibing, still rocking together. You're going to see a different kind of layers kind of form naturally as our players navigate these rotating. You're going to have the low ground, mid ground, and height. This is a feature of right now, a little peek at what's happening on the low ground. This is actually a strong rotation from this trio here, kind of focusing outside and catching the feet. A blaster right then and there. The shins are available. Give him them toes. Nico with the 1-point elim.
You know, we're out here in EU. Make sure you're wearing your shin guards before you go out and take the pitch. You can see keeping an eye on that top left-hand corner. Once we zoom back right now, keeping an eye on the wide as Mitro and Mongo are able to take it. The top left, we need to see 30 before Storm Surge turns off, and now we're into top 17. So each trio that drops will be gaining a point right now as a big shot comes out from Nico, trying to follow up with that tactical SMG, and that's Mr. Savage, and then a takedown right away behind him, as well as Benji also gets down. So down bad, Benji and Savage, as Nico gets dropped all the way down into who knows whose box. That was a Canadian mogul monster right there, as Ziku eats the shot, but he's way out of zone. He needs that siphon to tick over. He's barely going to be able to find it in time, but can he find his way back to the zone? No more mobility except for the bouncer, and instead gets denied by the brick wall as we talk about Old Man Mountain claiming his toll, and the changes in verticality. That slight rise up the one mountain that was in play is going to drop so many players as we went from 48 to 17 in our top 10 in the blink of a rotation.
Yeah, and Benji's team only making it into the top 16, so only one placement point doled out. They were only going to walk away from this match with their elim points, and the struggles continue for that. It's only game 2 out of 12, but now we're seeing Thomas and Flick taking height away from Mongrel's trio. Already, that is going to be a great story to unfold as Thomas Flick, I was about to say, Sundown, Mongrel's trio has the advantage here because this is their backyard. This is their drop spot. They know every single sign of elevation, every grid point. But Thomas, HC, and Flick, you just can't slow that train down.
Yeah, but Ziny also just picked up his own double, another trio making it into the late game. Lal Boom, the young Irishman, the World Cup qualified player, making a statement saying, I'm back, everybody, what's up? A nice little double from him as well. He gets all the resources, all the utility, going to opt to also pick up that bandage cannon for the late game heals since he knows it's going to final zone. You can see, though, Thomas HD and Flick still up on the high ground. However, single tarping and breaking down trees while using wood, to me, signifies they're low on mats, but it doesn't matter as now we're going to swing on board to the low ground madness as it's a 3-on-2 on 1. No, it's a 2-on-2 on 2. Now it's just a 2v2 as Thomas picks up the cleanup there onto Mongrel and Co. Well done from him there, but can Vidil and Kylie close out against Thomas and Flick? Flick goes down himself. Excuse me, Flick falling all the way down, just going to give some extra materials over, and now it's a 1v2. Can Thomas clutch up?
Thomas has clutched in this situation, that 2v1. This is game 2 on the line. Now the stories have flipped. The deal is on height with Kylie, and Thomas is on low. Thomas gets tagged twice for blue, and Thomas gets eliminated from Vidil. Game 2 goes to the Victory Royale winners of Kylie and Flash Roki, who didn't have a great start in game 1, but they're changing their fates here in game 2, Sundown.
Well done from Kylie, Frastroki, and Vidil, executing when they needed